For 8 years, I, Logan, lived a lie. I believed I was a father, building a solid life with Melinda and our 2 kids. Every bedtime story, every scraped knee, every "dad" felt real. It began on a Tuesday in my home office. My daughter, Emma, 10, bounced in with an ancestry kit. "Dad, can we do this tonight?" she asked, her eyes sparkling. Melinda appeared, rigid. "Those things are just gimmicks." Her tight, anxious voice was the first crack. 3 weeks later, my friend Dave from the lab called. "Logan, Emma, she's not genetically related to you." My world shattered. A mistake. The next morning, his text confirmed, same result. Neither kid. In less than 24 hours, 8 years of fatherhood dissolved. Melinda, humming in the kitchen, oblivious, was making dinner. Before I do, take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story earns it. Drop your city and your local time in the comments. I like knowing who's out there. I raised your kids. You didn't even know their names. The ancestry kit arrived on a Tuesday, wrapped in cheerful packaging that promised to unlock family secrets. Emma bounced into my home office, clutching the box like treasure. "Dad, can we do this tonight? Mrs. Peterson says it shows where your people came from." I looked up from structural blueprints scattered across my desk. My daughter's eyes sparkled with 10-year-old curiosity. "Sure, sweetheart. Get Jacob and we'll spit in some tubes." Melinda appeared in the doorway, dish towel in hand. "Logan, those things are just marketing gimmicks. Emma doesn't need to know about great-great-grandmother, whoever." "It's harmless," I said. But something in her voice made me look twice. She was gripping that towel too tight. "Besides, the kids are excited. I'm just saying we don't need strangers having our DNA." Emma's face fell. I reached over and squeezed her shoulder. "We're doing it. Go get your brother." That night we performed the simple ritual. Spit seal male. Emma chattered about possibly being related to Vikings. Jacob wondered if we had pirate blood. Melinda sat silent, scrolling her phone. 3 weeks later, my buddy Dave from the materials testing lab called during lunch. "Logan, you asked me to rush that ancestry thing, right? Well, I got the raw data if you want it early." "Sure, send it over. Actually, let me just tell you the kid. Emma, she's not genetically related to you." The sandwich in my mouth turned to cardboard. "What?" I ran it twice. 0 paternal markers match. "I'm sorry, man. I thought you should know before the official results come back." I set the phone down and stared at the wall of my office. Cars passed outside. Someone was mowing grass. Normal Tuesday sounds while my world cracked open. That evening, I waited until Melinda was giving the kids baths. I found Jacob's kit sample in our bedroom drawer where I'd saved some saliva on a cotton swab for my own comparison. Took it to Dave's lab myself. The next morning, Dave's text was simple. Same result. Neither kid. I sat in my truck outside our house for 20 minutes, engine running. Neighbors walked dogs. Mrs. Chen waved from her garden. Everything looked exactly the same. I drove home, parked carefully in the driveway, and walked inside. Melinda was making dinner. Emma was practicing piano. Jacob was building something with blocks. "How was work?" Melinda asked without looking up. "Fine," I said. Then I went upstairs, closed the bedroom door, and said out loud to my reflection. "Let's finish this." The next morning, I brought Melinda coffee in bed. Extra cream, just how she likes it. She looked surprised. "What's the occasion?" "No occasion. Just thinking we should appreciate each other more." She smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen in weeks. "That's sweet, Logan." Over breakfast, I suggested marriage counseling. We've been distant lately. Maybe talking to someone would help. You really want to do that? I want us to work, I said, and meant it in ways she couldn't understand. Melinda reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I love you. You know that, right? I know. I squeezed back. I love our family. That afternoon, I researched private investigators. Found Nora Valdez through a discreet online directory. Her website was simple. Truth, evidence, resolution. Perfect. I called for my truck during lunch. I need surveillance on my wife. Suspected infidelity. Nora's voice was professional. Calm. Yes. I need to know where she goes, who she sees, everything. My rate is $200 a day plus expenses. Cash only. I'll need photos and her vehicle information. Done. 3 days later, Nora called. Your wife met with a man yesterday at Riverside Cafe. Stayed 2 hours. Very friendly. Want me to identify him? Yes. Brian Russo, contractor, runs Russo Construction. Want me to dig deeper? I knew that name. Melinda's ex-husband, father of her children. Supposedly the man she divorced 8 years ago for being unreliable and immature. The man she claimed never wanted kids. Keep watching, I told Nora. That evening, Melinda seemed lighter somehow. She hummed while cooking, laughed at Emma's jokes, actually sat with us during a movie instead of staring at her phone. You seem happy, I said during a commercial. I am. The counseling idea really helped me think about us, about what I want. I nodded and pulled her closer on the couch. I'm glad. 2 days later, Nora called again. They met at his place this time. His truck was parked outside a house on Maple Street. She was there 3 hours. And Logan, I don't think he knows about the kids. What do you mean? He lives alone. No kid stuff anywhere. No family photos. When they talked outside his truck, she showed him pictures on her phone. His reaction looked surprised, like he was seeing them for the first time in a while. I thanked Nora and hung up so Brian didn't know. He was sleeping with his ex-wife, but had no clue he was the biological father of her children. The children I'd been raising, loving, supporting for 8 years. The children who called me Dad. That night, I held Emma a little longer during bedtime stories. Jacob fell asleep on my lap watching cartoons. They were innocent in all this. Whatever happened next, they were innocent. Cheryl Moss had an office in downtown's financial district. Quiet, expensive, the kind of place that handled delicate matters for people who preferred discretion. I need estate planning, I told her during our consultation. Assets, power of attorney, the works. My wife and I want everything organized, very responsible. Many couples your age avoid these conversations. I pulled out financial statements, property deeds, insurance policies, everything I'd gathered over the past week. We want to make sure the kids are protected if something happens to us. Cheryl reviewed the documents. You have substantial assets, the house, your engineering practice, investments. I'd recommend a trust structure for tax benefits. Whatever you think is best. My wife trusts my judgment on financial matters. That weekend, I presented the papers to Melinda over coffee. Made it sound routine, responsible. Cheryl says if we both sign power of attorney forms, we can handle each other's affairs if needed. Medical emergencies, that sort of thing. You're being so thoughtful lately, Melinda said, signing without reading carefully. It's nice having someone who takes care of these things. I watched her signature flow across the documents, legal authorization for me to access her accounts, make financial decisions, act on her behalf. She had no idea what she'd just given me. Next, I visited the county planning office. I need to file a permit application, I told the clerk. What type of construction? Electrical upgrade. Bringing an older home up to code. I slid across blueprints I'd drawn myself based on public records of Brian's address. The work looked legitimate. New breaker box, updated wiring, standard residential upgrade. Property owner signature required. I'd practiced Brian's signature from documents Nora had photographed. Close enough for a busy clerk to approve. Here you go. The permit was approved within days. On paper, Brian Russo had officially filed for major electrical work at his residence. Work that, according to city code, required professional installation and safety inspection. The final piece was the LLC. Melinda's signature on those power of attorney forms let me establish a business entity in her name, Rocky Mountain Holdings LLC. I used her social security number, her personal information, opened a business credit line for $25,000. On paper, my wife now owned a construction company with significant debt and tax obligations. She just didn't know it yet. That Thursday, an IRS notice arrived in our mail addressed to Melinda Adams regarding business tax obligations for Rocky Mountain Holdings LLC. She was upstairs when I heard her phone buzz with the notification. I smiled and went back to reading bedtime stories to Emma. The Hendersons were having their annual neighborhood barbecue. Perfect opportunity. I suggested we attend as a family. Actually, I told Melinda while she got ready. Why don't you invite Brian? He used to live in the neighborhood, right? Might be nice for him to catch up with old friends. She paused, mascara wand halfway to her eye. You want me to invite Brian? Sure. Water under the bridge, right? We're all adults. An hour later, Brian's truck pulled into the Hendersons' driveway. He looked good, tan, confident, wearing an expensive polo shirt. The kind of man who thought life owed him favors. Logan. He approached with a wide smile and firm handshake. Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for the invite. Wouldn't be the same without you. I clapped his shoulder. Beer. We stood by the grill watching kids play in the backyard. Emma and Jacob ran with the neighbor children, laughing and carefree. Brian watched them with interest. They've grown so much, he said. Melinda shows me pictures, but seeing them in person, Emma looks just like her mother at that age. Genetics are funny that way, I said. Tom Henderson flipped burgers while his wife Karen organized side dishes. Normal suburban scene. Brian fit right in, charming everyone with stories about renovation projects and weekend fishing trips. During dinner, he sat across from me next to Melinda. They were careful not to touch, but I caught the glances. The way she laughed at his jokes. The way he looked at her when he thought I wasn't watching. You know, Brian said, reaching for another beer. I always wanted my family back. Didn't think I'd have to go through you to get it. He laughed like it was a joke. Everyone chuckled. I raised my beer. To real fathers, I said, the ones who show up every day. Brian's smile flickered for just a second. Then he clinked his bottle against mine. Absolutely. After dinner, my friend Theo arrived. I'd called him earlier, asked him to stop by. Theo had been a cop for 15 years before opening his auto repair shop. Good with his hands, better at noticing things others missed. Theo, meet Brian, I said. Brian's a contractor. Does beautiful work. They shook hands. Brian immediately launched into describing his latest project, renovating a lake house property he'd bought as an investment. Doing most of the work myself, Brian said. Save money on labor costs. Smart, Theo said. Electrical work, too. Some of it. Breaker box, basic wiring. Nothing too complicated. Theo nodded. Mind if I take a look sometime? I'm always curious about DIY electrical projects. Safety is so important. Sure, anytime. I could use a second opinion, actually. They exchanged numbers. I watched Theo memorize Brian's address when he wrote it down. Later, as people were cleaning up, I found myself alone with Brian by the recycling bins. "Nice evening," he said. "Very nice. Hey, about that electrical work you mentioned. Your breaker box is probably the original from when the house was built. Those old panels can be fire hazards." Brian looked at me sharply. "How do you know about my breaker box?" "I'm a structural engineer. I notice these things. Just saying you should get it inspected before you do too much work. Safety first." He stared at me for a long moment. "Right. Safety first." I smiled and headed back toward the house. Behind me, I heard him crushing his empty beer can a little too hard. Sunday evening, Melinda was quieter than usual. She kept checking her phone, distracted during dinner conversation. After the kids went to bed, I found her on the back porch with a glass of wine. "Penny, for your thoughts," I said, settling beside her. She was quiet for so long, I thought she wouldn't answer. Then, "Logan, I need to tell you something about Brian." I put my phone on record mode, hidden in my jacket pocket. "What about him?" "Being around him yesterday, it brought back feelings. Good feelings." She turned to face me. "He feels like home in a way I'd forgotten." "Home? Like the person I was before? Responsibility and mortgages and then all of this." She gestured at our house, our life with Brian. "I remember being young, being free." I nodded like I understood. "Are you saying you want to leave?" "I don't know what I'm saying. I just know that when I'm with him, I feel alive again." Perfect. Every word recorded clearly. The next morning, I created an anonymous email account and sent Brian the audio file. Subject line, "Fatherhood surprises." No message, just the recording of Melinda confessing her feelings. He called her within an hour. I listened from the kitchen while she took the call upstairs. "What do you mean someone sent you a recording?" Her voice carried down the hall. Logan wouldn't. How would he even? Long pause. "Brian, listen to me. Logan found out about us and he's threatening me. He says if I don't stop seeing you, he'll take the kids and destroy my life." Another pause. "No, you can't confront him. That's exactly what he wants. He's been acting strange lately, asking about estate planning, making me sign papers. I think he's been planning this." I smiled. Now she was creating evidence against me, building a narrative where I was the villain threatening her. Brian would believe it because it fit his image of himself as the hero rescuing his ex-wife from her controlling husband. I set up my phone to record video and went upstairs. Found Melinda pacing our bedroom, still on the call. "Hey," I said casually. "Everything okay?" She looked panicked, guilty. "I have to go," she told Brian, then hung up. "Who was that?" "Nobody. Work stuff." I let the silence stretch uncomfortably. "Melinda, if something's bothering you, we can talk about it." I thought we were being honest with each other now. "We are. Everything's fine. Because if someone was threatening you or trying to manipulate you, I'd want to know. I'd protect you." Her eyes filled with tears. "Logan, you're scaring me." "I'm scaring you." "How?" "All these papers you're having me sign. The way you've been watching me asking questions. If you know something, just say it." I kept the camera rolling. "I don't know what you mean. Don't play games with me. If you're going to destroy my life, at least have the courage to say it to my face." "Destroy your life?" "Melinda, I love you. I'm trying to save our marriage." She broke down completely. "You can't save something that was built on lies. You can't force someone to love you." "What lies?" "Everything. This whole life is a lie." Perfect. I stopped recording and put the phone away. She just created a beautiful piece of evidence showing her admitting our marriage was based on lies, while I appeared calm and confused. 2 days later, Brian received a city code violation notice. Unauthorized electrical work performed without proper permits and inspection. Fine, $500. Required action, immediate professional inspection, and correction of all non-compliant installations. I'd filed the complaint myself, using the permit I'd forged in his name as evidence that he'd begun work without completing proper procedures. Brian called Melinda in a rage. I listened to her side of the conversation. How would Logan know about your electrical work? You think he's been watching your house? Brian, calm down. No, don't come over here. But of course, he did. Brian arrived at our house Thursday evening while I was helping Emma with homework. He knocked like he was trying to break down the door. I answered calmly, Brian, what's going on? You know exactly what's going on. He pushed past me into our living room. This stops now. Melinda appeared from the kitchen, face white. Brian, please don't do this here. Do what here? I asked. Brian, you're upset about something. Let's talk about it like adults. Adults? He laughed bitterly. Adults don't spy on people. Adults don't file false reports with the city. I have no idea what you're talking about. Emma looked up from her math homework. Daddy, who's the angry man? Go upstairs, sweetheart. Take Jacob with you. After the kids were gone, Brian turned on me. I know you've been having me followed. I know you recorded Melinda's private conversations. This harassment ends now. Or I'm calling the police. Brian, I think you might be having some kind of breakdown. Maybe you should talk to someone. Don't. He stepped closer. Don't pretend to be concerned about my mental health when you're the one playing mind games. Melinda put herself between us. Both of you stop. The kids can hear the kids. Brian looked from her to me. When were you going to tell me the truth about the kids? Silence. That's what I thought. He pulled out his phone. Maybe everyone should know what kind of man Logan Adams really is. I smiled. What kind of man am I, Brian? The kind who raises another man's children and lies to them about their real father? Melinda gasped. Brian, don't what? Tell the truth that Emma and Jacob are my biological children. That their mother has been lying to everyone for 8 years. How do you know that? I asked quietly. DNA doesn't lie, unlike some people. I pulled out my phone. Well, since we're sharing family secrets, I opened the video I'd recorded of Melinda's breakdown. Let it play loud enough for both of them to hear. Her voice filled the room. You can't save something that was built on lies. This whole life is a lie. Brian stared at the phone, then at Melinda. You told him our marriage was a lie. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? I asked. Because it sounded pretty clear to me. She looked trapped, desperate. I meant the way we've been pretending everything's fine when it's not because you've been sleeping with your ex-husband. Brian's face went dark. You son of a Brian, please. Melinda begged. Let's just go. We can figure this out somewhere else. No, he pointed at me. We're figuring this out right here. You want to play games? Let's play. He pulled out his own phone, started dialing. Hello, Child Protective Services. I need to report a case of parental fraud. I hung up his call by grabbing his wrist. I don't think you want to do that. Why not? Because you're afraid they'll find out you've been knowingly raising children who aren't yours. That you've been stealing child support payments meant for their real father. I've never taken child support from you because you made sure I never knew they existed. Melinda was crying now. This isn't how I wanted this to happen. How did you want it to happen? I asked her. Were you planning to leave me for him? Take my kids, sorry, his kids, and just disappear. They're not your kids, Brian shouted. They never were. I've been their father for 8 years. I've been to every school play, every soccer game, every doctor's appointment. Where were you? I would have been there if I'd known. Bull crap. You divorced Melinda because you didn't want the responsibility. Don't rewrite history now. Brian grabbed my shirt. You want to know about responsibility? Let's talk about it. I didn't fight back. Didn't even raise my hands. Just looked at him calmly. Violence won't change anything, Brian. The truth is still the truth. He released me, breathing hard. What truth is that? I walked to the mantel, picked up a framed photo of our family from last Christmas. Emma and Jacob, smiling between Melinda and me, happy, innocent, unaware their world was about to shatter. The truth is that sometimes good men get fooled by people they trust. Sometimes they spend years building a life with someone who was never really theirs to begin with. I set the photo down. And sometimes when they finally understand what's been done to them, they have to decide whether to be victims or take control. Brian stared at me. What's that supposed to mean? I smiled. It means you should have stayed out of my house. I walked to the closet and pulled out a box I'd hidden behind winter coats. Opened it to reveal a collection of fireworks I'd bought for the 4th of July. Big ones, professional grade. You know, I said conversationally. These things are dangerous if you don't handle them properly. House fires start from the stupidest mistakes. Electrical problems, gas leaks, careless storage of flammable materials. Brian's face went pale. Are you threatening me? I'm just saying accidents happen, especially to people who do their own electrical work without proper permits or inspections. I dropped the box at his feet. Fireworks scattered across our hardwood floor. You should be more careful, Brian. A man with your responsibilities can't afford to make careless mistakes. Theo met me at the marina 2 nights later. We took his boat across the lake to Brian's property. The house sat on a wooded lot, half-finished renovation visible in the darkness. You sure about this? Theo asked as we tied up at Brian's private dock. I'm sure. Because once we do this, there's no going back. There's already no going back. We brought tools, work clothes, everything we needed to look like contractors finishing a late-night emergency repair. The kind of repair that couldn't wait until morning. Brian's electrical work was amateur hour. Exposed wiring, overloaded circuits, a main panel that looked like it had been installed by someone who'd learned electrical work from YouTube videos. Jesus, Theo muttered, examining the breaker box. This thing is a fire waiting to happen. Good thing we're here to fix it. We worked quickly, professionally. Theo loosened the connection on the main breaker, creating a small gap that would cause arcing. I adjusted the gas line behind the kitchen wall, introducing a minor leak near the electrical panel. Nothing dramatic, nothing that would be immediately obvious. The beauty was in the simplicity. Brian's own poor workmanship provided the foundation. We just gave physics a little help. How long? Theo asked as we cleaned up. Hard to say. Could be days, could be weeks, depends on how much power he draws through that loose connection. We were back across the lake within an hour. By morning, we were both at our regular jobs, solid alibis in place. 3 days later, I sent Melinda a photo I'd found in her jewelry box. Old Polaroid from years ago, her holding baby Emma while pregnant with Jacob. Brian stood beside them, young and smiling, hand on her shoulder. A family portrait from before I existed in their lives. My text was simple. That was always your family. She called immediately. Logan, where did you get this? Found it while looking for insurance papers. Funny how some things hide in plain sight. What do you want? I want you to be honest with yourself, with the kids, with everyone. Stop pretending. I can't just you can. You should be with him tonight. He needs you. That evening, Melinda left after dinner. Told the kids she was visiting a friend. Told me she'd be back late. I knew she wouldn't be coming back at all. At 11:47 p.m., I was reading in bed when the emergency siren started. Fire trucks, ambulances, the works. I went to the window and saw the orange glow across the lake. My phone rang at midnight. Unknown number. Logan, it's Melinda. There's been an accident. What kind of accident? Brian's house. There was an explosion. A fire. We barely got out. Are you hurt? No, we're fine. But Logan, the fire chief is saying it was electrical. The main panel failed and ignited a gas leak. Everything's gone. I was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry, Melinda. That's terrible. The chief wants to interview Brian about the electrical work. He's talking about negligence charges. Negligence? Apparently, Brian filed permits but never had the work inspected. There's going to be an investigation. I see. Well, these things happen when people try to do complicated work themselves. Logan, I need to ask you something and I need you to tell me the truth. Of course. Did you have anything to do with this? I let the question hang in the air. Melinda, I've been home all evening. You can ask the kids. That's not what I meant. Then I don't know what you mean. Brian's house burned down because he did unsafe electrical work. That's not my fault. She started crying. Everything is falling apart. Maybe it needed to fall apart. Maybe it was built wrong from the beginning. The next morning, the IRS froze Brian's assets. All of them. Bank accounts, investment portfolio, the insurance payout from the fire. Everything connected to the tax fraud investigation triggered by Rocky Mountain Holdings LLC. The LLC that existed in Melinda's name with her social security number, her signature on the documents. Cheryl's office felt different this time. Quieter, more serious, like a funeral home. The trust is finalized, she said, sliding papers across her desk. All assets have been transferred to the offshore accounts as requested. Your wife's power of attorney authorization made the process very smooth, and the domestic accounts closed. The funds from Rocky Mountain Holdings credit line have been distributed according to your instructions. Technically, your wife is now personally liable for $25,000 in business debt, plus penalties and interest. Technically, she signed the corporate documents. Her social security number is on file with the IRS as the business owner. Legally, she's responsible for all business obligations. I nodded. What about the house? In trust, as requested. She has no claim to it now. Perfect. That afternoon, I went to the bank where Melinda and I had held our joint checking account for 8 years. Closed it out, withdrew everything in cash, left her an account statement showing the final balance, $327. At home, I packed 2 suitcases, just essentials, clothes, documents, cash, everything else I left exactly as it was. Family photos on the mantle, kids' drawings on the refrigerator, Melinda's coffee mug in the sink. I wrote letters to Emma and Jacob explaining nothing and everything. Told them I loved them, that none of this was their fault, that sometimes adults make complicated decisions that hurt people they care about. Sealed the letters and left them on their pillows. Then I called my office and left a message for my assistant. Family emergency. Cancel all appointments. I'll be out indefinitely for mental health reasons. The beauty of having a reputation as a stable, reliable person is that when you finally fall apart, everyone believes it completely. Thursday morning, I kissed Emma and Jacob goodbye while they ate breakfast. Normal kisses, normal morning, told them to have good days at school. Melinda was in the shower. I could hear her phone buzzing constantly on the nightstand. Probably lawyers, insurance adjusters, reporters wanting to interview her about Brian's arrest. I left my wedding ring on the bathroom counter and walked out of the house for the last time. By noon, I was on a Greyhound bus heading south. No cell phone, no credit cards, nothing electronic that could be tracked. Just cash and a new identity I'd been preparing for months. At a rest stop in Colorado, I bought a newspaper. The headline made me smile. Local contractor arrested in insurance fraud case. Wife under investigation for tax evasion. Below that, a smaller story. Structural engineer missing. Family fears mental breakdown. They'd found my truck at a bridge outside town, keys still in the ignition. My suicide note apologized for being a failure as a husband and father. Explained how the stress of discovering my wife's affair had driven me to despair. By the time anyone realized I wasn't actually dead, I'd be long gone. From a motel in El Paso, I watched the news coverage on a grainy television. Brian's arrest made national news. The handsome contractor who burned down his own house to collect insurance money, then got caught in a web of tax evasion and fraud. Melinda's story was more tragic. Loyal wife discovers husband's crimes, gets caught up in his schemes, loses everything while trying to protect her children. The reporters love the human interest angle. Beautiful woman betrayed by two men. First her criminal ex-husband, then her mentally unstable current husband who abandoned his family rather than face the truth. Nobody suspected that the unstable husband had orchestrated everything. Child Protective Services took Emma and Jacob on a Friday. I watched Melinda on the courthouse steps surrounded by microphones and cameras trying to explain why her children should stay with her. I'm not a criminal, she kept saying. I made mistakes, but I'm not a criminal. The problem with that defense was the paper trail, her signature on the LLC documents, her social security number on the business filings, her power of attorney authorization for all the financial transactions. On paper, she was either a criminal or an idiot. Neither was good for child custody. Brian tried to claim parental rights from jail, but his arrest record made that complicated. Pills possession charges from his 20s, the current fraud investigation, his complete absence from the children's lives for 8 years. The judge placed Emma and Jacob in temporary foster care pending resolution of the adults' legal issues. Sunday morning, my phone rang. I'd kept one burner phone for emergencies, turned off most of the time. Logan Theo's voice was quiet, careful. Yeah. You watching the news? Some of it. She's destroyed, man. Completely destroyed. I know the kids are asking about you. Emma thinks you're dead. I close my eyes. Maybe that's better. Jesus, Logan, what have we done? We finished it. Long silence. Then I can't do this anymore. The guilt is eating me alive. You didn't do anything wrong, Theo. Brian caused that fire with his own incompetence. We just happened to be there when physics took over. That's bull crap, and you know it. Is it? Did you see the fire chief's report? Faulty electrical work caused an arc that ignited accumulated gas from a poorly connected line. Classic negligence. Fire happens all the time. We loosened those connections. We performed maintenance on a dangerous electrical system. We probably saved lives. Another long silence. I'm thinking about talking to someone. A priest maybe. Or a lawyer. That would be a mistake, would it? Because I can't live with this, Logan. I can't sleep. I can't eat. Every time I see those kids on the news, I want to throw up. Then stop watching the news. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. You choose what to focus on. You choose what to carry. And you choose to carry nothing. I thought about Emma's laugh. Jacob's bedtime hugs. The way Melinda used to curl up against me on Sunday mornings. I carry everything, Theo. The difference is I don't let it stop me from moving forward. Forward to what? To whatever comes next. That afternoon, Theo mailed a package to Melinda's lawyer. Inside was the USB drive containing the video I'd recorded of her breakdown along with a note. She lied about Logan threatening her. He didn't. The video showed exactly what I'd captured. Melinda admitting our marriage was built on lies. Me appearing calm and confused. Her emotional breakdown making her look unstable and deceptive. It was the final nail in the coffin of her credibility. The beach in Ensenada was perfect. Warm sand, cold beer, anonymity. I'd been Miguel Santos for 3 weeks now. Just another American retiree enjoying Mexican hospitality. Nobody asked questions when you paid cash and spoke decent Spanish. Nobody cared about your past when your present involved drinking quietly and bothering no one. The newsstand near my hotel carried American papers. I bought one every few days following the final chapter of the story I'd written. Today's headline: Local builder sentenced to 5 years for fraud, arson, ex-wife loses custody appeal. The article was brief. Brian had pleaded guilty to insurance fraud and tax evasion. His electrical negligence had been ruled the cause of the fire, but prosecutors successfully argued he'd intentionally created dangerous conditions to stage an accident. Melinda had lost her final custody appeal. Emma and Jacob would remain in foster care until suitable permanent placement could be arranged. Her parental rights were being terminated due to financial fraud, child endangerment, and emotional instability. The last paragraph mentioned me. Logan Adams, the children's stepfather, remains missing and is presumed dead after an apparent suicide. His body was never recovered from the Colorado River. I folded the newspaper and walked to the W's edge. The Pacific stretched endlessly west, blue and indifferent. A few tourists played volleyball further down the beach. Children built sand castles while their parents watched from beach chairs. Normal families doing normal things. I pulled the USB drive from my pocket, the one containing all the evidence I'd gathered, all the recordings, all the proof of what really happened. Theo had mailed a copy to Melinda's lawyer, but this was the original, the master file. For a moment, I thought about Emma's science project from last spring. She'd built a volcano that erupted with baking soda and vinegar, practicing for weeks to get the timing perfect. Her face had lit up when it worked exactly as planned. I thought about Jacob's bedtime ritual, how he'd make me check the closet for monsters 3 times before he felt safe enough to sleep. "There's nothing there, buddy," I'd tell him. Daddy checked. They'd be older when someone finally explained what happened. Old enough to understand that the man who'd raised them, loved them, been their father in every way that mattered, had simply vanished from their lives without explanation. They'd wonder why. They'd blame themselves the way children do. I broke the USB drive in half and threw the pieces into the surf. The ocean swallowed them immediately, carrying my secrets into depths where they'd never be found. Walking back toward the hotel, I passed a newsstand where the vendor was arranging fresh papers. A different headline caught my eye. Foster children await adoption. Local siblings need permanent family. The photo showed Emma and Jacob at some kind of social services event. They looked older, sadder, but still recognizably themselves. Still the children I'd tucked into bed, helped with homework, taught to ride bicycles. Emma was holding Jacob's hand protectively. Even at 10 years old, she understood she was all he had left. I bought the paper and read the article in the hotel bar. A social worker was quoted, "These are wonderful children who've been through tremendous trauma. They need a stable, loving home where they can heal and move forward." The bartender noticed me staring at the photo. "To Siner, see," I said. To bien, everything was fine. Everything had gone exactly according to plan. I ordered another beer and watched the sunset paint the sky orange and red colors like fire, like the glow I'd seen across the lake that night when Brian's house burned. Justice didn't need to make noise to hurt. It worked quietly, systematically, removing problems and balancing equations. Melinda had betrayed our marriage, our family, our life together. Brian had thought he could waltz back in and reclaim what he'd abandoned. They'd both learned otherwise. The only innocent victims were Emma and Jacob, and that was unfortunate but unavoidable. Children survive trauma. They adapted, grew stronger, found new families who loved them properly. They'd be fine without me. Better than fine. They'd be free from the lie their mother had built. Free from the chaos Brian would have brought into their lives. I finished my beer and walked back to my room. Tomorrow, I'd move on to the next town, the next identity, the next chapter of whatever came after justice. Behind me, the ocean continued its endless rhythm, washing away footprints and carrying secrets into the dark.